What's going on, you guys? Brandon from Vegas here, and welcome back to Real Estate 101. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Bill Gaylord. And today we are going to be discussing one of the worst real estate myths out there, and that is you need 20% down to buy a house. 20% down is a lie, and today we're going to tell you guys exactly why. Bill, why do you think people still harbor the myth that they need 20%? I have an idea, right? But you come from the generation where that was still normalized. So what do you think?
Yeah, so Boomer Bill here. I'll go into my Boomer Bill concept. So basically, back when people were growing up, back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you generally had to bring in a little bit more money for a down payment. There was not as many programs out there. And so people just had this myth, oh gosh, you have to have 20% down. And it's changed so much. There's 3% down. There's, of course, the VA, which is 0% down, FHA, 3.5% down. So, and the other thing is, people were real concerned about mortgage insurance. Oh my God, I don't want to pay mortgage insurance. It's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because people put it out there that it's a bad thing, and it's not a bad thing. It helps you get into a house and actually start building wealth right away.
Yeah. I think the myth, and the reason the myth, Greek mythology is still around, but we don't believe lightning bolts come from the sky, right? Because we've had updated education on how lightning comes about, right? The problem is, and we discuss this a lot on the channel, is that no one is getting proper real estate education. So most people are being educated by their parents, who are educated by their parents, and so on, right? So if that's the only place that you're getting education, and your grandpa came from a generation where 20% down was normal, what else is he going to tell you? You think the guy who's owned a house since 1967 has updated himself on modern real estate? No, he has no reason to do so, right? So the people being educated are still being educated by that generation. It just shows you how long we've gone without updated real estate education. I tell people this and they laugh, but I don't think we've gotten new real estate education in this country since like 1964.
Yeah.
I think the 60s is when real estate education stopped being taught. It's when people stopped either in school or through relatives. Everything has just become myths and hearsay.
Yeah, and I think also it's just they like you said, they hear it on the internet, they hear it from their parents, their grandparents. Oh gosh, when I bought a house, I put 20% down. You need to save 20%. It'll save you a lot of money over the long run. Meanwhile, you have property values going up and it just costs more to get into the house.
Yes. One of the big things we like to discuss is there's this idea, that boomers won the housing market because they got houses for $60,000. Well, guess what? Yeah, if your house was $60,000, putting down 20% might be a little bit easier. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It might be a little bit easier when we're looking at, down payment or 20% being $10,000 to $12,000 rather than $80,000, $100,000 like it is now, right? But people have to understand that houses don't cost $60,000 anymore. And while you wait to save that $80,000, $100,000, the price of the houses are rising so fast that you can't ever catch up.
Right.
One of my favorite examples is this, okay? So let's say you go to buy a $400,000 house and the 20% down is $80,000, right?
That's a lot of money. That's hard for people to save.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. You need $80,000. So you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to save $80,000 in 3 to 4 years. I'm going to give myself 3 to 4 years to save 20%. Okay. The average American house, as we discussed, Bill, goes up by 5 to 6% per year. So after 3 to 4 years, your house, your $400,000 house, might cost $500,000 now. And now instead of $80,000, you need $100,000, right? So all that happened while you waited to save that $80,000 is the cost of the house is now outside of what you saved. And it's just going to keep setting you back, keep setting you back, keep setting you back.
And you mentioned education, right? I think a lot of people just don't understand. They just don't get educated in a way that that they don't know where to go for the education, and you provide it for free. And it's amazing how many people you've helped by just providing the information.
Yeah. I never thought we'd be able to grow a channel and a live stream providing free education. I thought maybe we'd get like 10 to 20 people, and we're seeing such a crazy growth. The TikTok creator just invited me to be a part of like a special live event where they want to start promoting real estate education. So even TikTok is recognizing that this is a thing that's growing and that people are genuinely interested in, which is really cool.
Yeah.
That social media will become the platform that real estate education grows on.
Yep.
Who would have ever thunk it, right?
And it's awesome because people really should understand housing, because housing is literally one of the most important things of someone's life.
Of course.
To basically have stability, to have the ability to grow their wealth and their income. Housing is amazing.
Yeah. And I think the big issue with the 20% myth is that houses used to be Honda Civics. Safe, reliable, but you weren't buying it for a major profit, right? No one's like, oh, I just got rich. Let me go buy a Honda Civic, right? Now the housing market has become Mercedes, where living in the house has become secondary to the profit that it makes. It's become a status, right? It's become a show of financial growth. And in some cases, like Summerlin or Los Angeles or San Francisco, it's a Ferrari, where you buy $1 million house in the Ridges and a year later it's worth 2.2 million. Like the escalation of real estate is something that people really need to understand, or they're going to get completely left behind. So, Bill, why is 20% down a lie? Why is it no longer really applicable to the average person in 2024?
Well, for me, I look at it, I see, thousands of borrowers every single year, and it's just a matter of taking a look at what their situation is. It's hard to save money. It really is hard to save money, and they don't need that kind of money. And if they have good credit, the mortgage insurance is very low.
Yeah.
And so they don't need to have that money. So it's really just a matter of jumping in, understanding, getting educated, feeling comfortable, and knowing what your mortgage payment's going to be.
And that's the big thing, is actually knowing the financial side of it, right? Every breakthrough and aha, that light bulb ting moment that I've had in a class comes from the financial side, from just seeing the raw numbers, right?
Yes.
So the example we like to give people is this. You have a $400,000 home, 20% down is $80,000, right? That's the number you're trying to hit, is 80,000. So keep that, just hold that there. If you put down 3.5%, that's $14,000. So
that's a lot less than
that's
$80,000.
a lot less than $80,000, right? So put that $14,000 to the side. It's in its own little pot right here, right? Of $14,000.
Right.
That's what you've already contributed to the house, right? Well, if the average house is gaining 5 to 6% per year, after 1 year, your $400,000 house is up 21-something thousand. After year 2, it's up 22-something thousand. After year 3, it's up 23-something, 24-something thousand. Well, if you add those numbers together, we're hovering around $66,000, okay? Bill, you're a smart guy. What's 66,000 plus 14,000?
$80,000.
$80,000? Isn't that the 20% down they needed at the initial?
That's a 20% down.
Right? And this is what we're trying to explain to people, is instead of looking at how much houses cost now compared to the 60s, think about it this way. You're getting 20% in 3 years. You could never fathom that in the 60s, right?
No.
In the 60s, you couldn't fathom a $60,000 house becoming a $200,000 house.
Not even
right?
remote.
That would be insane. They were looking at equity gains of maybe, 2,000 to 3,000 per year if things were going well. Yeah. We're looking at equity gains of 21, 22, 23,000, and this is on starter homes.
Yes.
Right? These are on starter homes. We're not even talking about $800,000, $900,000 homes. These are just hey, we're getting life started. Here's a $350,000, $400,000 house, right? So, Bill, even knowing this, even knowing that all it takes them is 3 years in the house to hit that 20% goal, why do you think they're still scared? What is the big boogeyman that they're afraid of?
It's basically the fear of the unknown, the fear of doing the wrong thing, getting into a market that's going to crash, getting in a market that, where the mortgage payment is too high for them and they can't afford it, or they lose a job. So a lot of it is just fear. And there's so many different ways to understand and overcome that fear. For example, if somebody were to lose a job, right? How do you pay for the mortgage? Oh my gosh, you're still going to have to pay rent, right? Even if you're renting, you now have a mortgage. You have the option now of getting a roommate. You have the option of potentially renting it out. You have the option of potentially selling it and actually getting proceeds from the sale of the home. So you have actually more options as a homeowner than as a renter. So I think a lot of people are just fearful of really understanding what the situation is.
It's funny. Yesterday in class, we were kind of going over this scenario of people being like, well, at least when I rent a property, I can split the rent with a roommate. And I said, why can't you split the mortgage with a roommate? Right? I don't understand. Everything that you just gave me about splitting a rental, I think you could say you could do it with a house.
Correct.
Right? When you go to get a rental, they're still checking your credit. And in a lot of cases, especially Las Vegas, the credit requirements for renting a house in Vegas are often higher than they are for buying it. So if you and your, roommate are going to rent a house, you still need a credit check. You still need a roommate with decent credit.
Yeah.
Right? So everything that you apply to that rental, you can apply to that house.
100%.
To me, the big boogeyman, and it's the number one phrase, the number one word I get in my class daily, for years now, PMI. Well, Brandon, if I don't put 20% down, my mortgage insurance, my PMI. And I always hit them with the same question. Okay, how much is PMI? This big boogeyman that you're afraid of, how much is PMI?
And they don't know, right?
And they have this face of like, oh crap, I don't know. So since PMI is the great big boogeyman, we're gonna Scooby-Doo this shit. We are gonna unmask PMI, right? Because Scooby-Doo taught you a good lesson. The boogeyman you were afraid of was just the pissed off janitor with the crooked leg, right? He wasn't really a boogeyman. He was this laughable character that you actually kind of felt bad for.
And they're
right?
like, I'm afraid of that?
I've been afraid of Stanley the janitor. I pee on his floors. Like, what the hell, right? That is what PMI is, ultimately, right? He's the janitor in the floor who is necessary, but you try to pretend it doesn't exist, even though he's a highly necessary figure. Much like the janitor, we couldn't do without the PMI. It is the mortgage insurance that allows you to only put 3% down, right? Like, how do you think you're getting a $400,000 house only putting down 3%?
That's a pretty good deal when you think about it,
Right?
It's unbelievable.
Try to buy houses in Italy. Go try buying houses in Mexico and telling them, I only got like $12,000. Can I have this house? Are you kidding me? No, you have literally no chance, right?
And the mortgage insurance is basically to cover the lender up to assuming that the property was 20% down.
Yeah.
Right. So the mortgage insurance company, they're separate. There's like a bunch of different mortgage insurance companies. You figure out what the rates are, but they're basically providing the buyer with an insurance policy that allows the lender to give them a good rate and get them into the home.
100%.
And then when it gets to the 20% equity level on conventional mortgages, it can be removed.
Yep. And that's the big thing we want to talk about is how to unmask PMI through basic numbers and showing people how easy it is to actually remove, right?
Yes.
So this isn't perfect because everything is going to depend on your credit, your debt to income. But on average, PMI is anywhere from $70 to $110 for every $100,000 borrowed, right?
I would say that on average, it's about, if you take FHA, it's 0.55. If you take conventional On a 3% down, it could be about 0.6%
Okay.
of the loan amount. So if you've got good credit, 0.6 on, say, my numbers, 400, that's $2,400 a year,
Yeah.
$200 a month.
$200 a month. Okay. So you're going to put down $80,000 to save $2,400 a year. In what world would that make sense? If your stockbroker called you and goes, "Hey, you give me $80,000, I'll make you $200 per month." Is that something you're investing in? Right? Is $2,400 being like, "Oh, wow, I'm definitely putting all my capital into this," right? No. But for some reason, when you add $200 to the mortgage, it causes people to freak out. So what I like to do is separate all the numbers, right? What you're saving with your $80,000 is $200 a month. And my thought is like, okay, if I just put down 14,000 and I keep 66,000 in my pocket, I could make $2,200 with that 66,000, right? You know how many businesses you could start with 66,000 that generate you $200 a month if that's all you care about? Hell, you could take 66,000, hand it to a good stockbroker or somebody who's good at managing portfolios, and he could make you more than $200, right?
Yeah.
But that's what people are hyper focused on, because with the second you use the word mortgage, people start to freak the hell out. So it's way easier to unmask PMI by just separating the numbers. You are putting down $80,000 to save $200, and to me, that doesn't make fiscal sense. That doesn't make financial sense.
Well, it's a word that they use out there is leverage, right?
Yeah.
You're basically leveraging, instead of having to save $80,000, you only need to save about $15,000, and you will be buying an asset that is worth way more than that $60,000 you have in savings. The house is worth $400,000, and you're getting appreciation on the $400,000,
Yes.
compounding year after year
Yes.
after year after year. So over time, you are just making a really good decision financially to get yourself ahead.
Yes. Let's take, speaking of getting yourself ahead, let's take two people, right? Twin A, twin B.
Okay.
This is my favorite, hypothetical, right?
Okay.
Take twin A, twin B. They're the same person. They work the same job. They have the same skill set. They get paid the same amount. They get the same raises, right? They're the exact same person. One of them buys a house, $400,000, 3.5% down. The other one says, "I'm going to wait till I have 20%, right?
Mm-hmm.
One person's paying $200 extra a month. The other person's saving the $2,400, right? After 4 years, the person who bought the house is already up 20 to 25% in equity. The person who bought at
So what's the dollar amount?
if we go with just a safe amount of 5% per year, just safe amount, not even saying escalating areas like Summerlin or Green Valley. Let's just say a stock standard 5% per year. Twin A is already up 80,000 in their house, and that's just equity. That doesn't include what they've saved from all other expenses. That's just the equity they've gained, right? Twin B may have saved their 20%, but that house is now a $480,000, $500,000 house, right? So even if they can get in it, they're now paying $100,000 more for the same house that person A already bought, right? And person A's already made upgrades to the house. They've already made adjustments to the house. They already know how to deal with the plumbing. They already have their home warranty in place, right? They've already learned how to be a homeowner, while person B is now just starting their life, right? Person A may have enough equity in that house to take out a HELOC and go buy a second house, right? He may be in the position to buy investment properties, while person A is still putting every dollar they make into the first initial house.
And person A can eliminate mortgage insurance because now they have the 20% equity in there and they can remove it. So then they
100%.
are saving $2,400 a year
100%.
by removing the mortgage insurance.
And honestly, it blows people's mind when I tell them, when you take that 20% equity that you let the house gain, right? So you let the house accumulate, 5%, 5%, 5%. After 3 years, you have your 66,000 combined with your $14,000 payment, and you go to your lender like Bill. You call Bill, hey Bill, I think I have enough money and equity to refinance. And Bill's like, great, let me run some numbers. Let's
do it.
Let's do an appraisal, right? And Bill's like, hey, you're right. You actually do have enough money. Do you want to, do you want to refinance? Do you want to now convert it from an FHA loan into a conventional loan with, 20%? And they're like, yeah, how much money am I going to save, right? Bill, it's literally $600 a month that they're going to now start saving on their mortgage, right? Instead of worrying about, I'm going to put 20% down to save $200 a month. No. We're going to fully refinance this thing, and now we're saving $600 a month. We're going to go from about $29.52 all the way down to about 24 and change, right? 23 change. So it's about $600 when we did the calculations,
Yeah.
And I tell them, that's how your landlord makes money, right? Your landlord didn't magically just own a house that he can rent out. This was his process. He bought it. He let it gain equity. He put it down so it had 20%, right? And now he rents it out to you.
Yeah.
That's his profit margin, and it's not hard for you to do the same thing.
I'm going to give you another reason why. A lot of people will say, "Oh gosh, well I can rent for less than I can own."
Yeah.
Right? And they're going to say the rental payment is going to be lower than my mortgage payment. And that can be true in a market like this. The difference is people have a really hard time saving money.
Yes.
Saving money is really difficult.
Yes.
There's so many distractions, so many things that you can spend money on, entertainment, food, all the stuff that's out there. So people have a hard time saving money.
Yeah.
So with a mortgage, there's basically two types of payment, or there's principal and interest. Okay. Interest goes to the lender, but then there's principal, and that's your money. That's basically forced savings.
Yep.
Where every month a portion of your mortgage payment goes to pay down that mortgage. And every single month it's going down and lower, and you're building equity from principal reduction. It's essentially forced savings.
Yep.
So it allows people to actually, who can't save money because they just have other things they want to spend it on, by getting a little bit higher payment on a mortgage, they're basically saving money because they're paying down the mortgage.
I'm one of those people, Bill.
It's great to spend
I'm
money,
one of those
right?
people. I'm from Vegas. I have a million ways to spend my money, right? I've treated my mortgage like a savings.
account.
I learned from you. I said, "Oh, you're right." I put an extra $300-400 towards my mortgage every month, right? If you told me to put $400 in my savings account, I'd be like, I'm just going to spend that, right? Like I may put it in my savings account, but I have access to my savings account, and I'm going to transfer it into my. I got this thing with my checkings and my savings. I can't keep them straight. But when I put it into my mortgage, the money's gone to me. It's gone, right?
It's forced savings.
Forced savings. And it's been one of the best things I've ever done, because I take the extra, $300-400, put it to my mortgage. In my brain, the money's gone. I can't touch it. But in 3 to 4 years, I'm going to look up and be like, holy shit, we saved a ton of money, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a healthy way to start saving and prevent yourself from kind of like doing that little cheat maneuver where you move your savings a little bit of, back to the checkings all the time.
It's access. I mean, what you said is, if you're saving money, try and put it in an account that you have like 4 different levels to get through to get to the savings. It's hard to save money because it's there, and you're like, oh God, well, I can go to Disneyland, or I can go over here. I haven't been on this. And it's just a matter of putting it in a place where you can't get access to it. And in the house, you can't really, it's hard to get access to, but you could get to it through potentially a home equity loan down the road if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it unless it's a real need to improve the house or for another investment, but for fun, I wouldn't use it.
Who do you think 20% is good for? Because you and I work very hard to make sure that everything isn't 100% black and white, right? We don't want to come out here and say 20% is bad for every single person. No one should ever do it, right? That's not what we're saying. Who do you think 20% is good for?
Well, for people that may already own a home and are selling their house to get into a new house, they will probably have proceeds from the sale of their house that they could potentially move over. I am truly a big believer in reserves. I believe that you should look at having a account there for any kind of emergencies. The car goes down, you have medical stuff, you've got, trips that you have to go to for, a funeral or whatever it is, right? You have to have that reserve account. And so sometimes, but the people that can put 20% down and they can save a little bit of money because of mortgage insurance, why not? If they don't miss the money, why not?
Yeah.
There's
That's
now
a good
program.
way. If you don't miss the money,
Yep.
that should be we should make shirts with that. If you don't miss the money,
Put 20% down.
last year, it's funny. I remember every house, every single detail. It's weird. My memory sucks in a lot of places, but when it comes to houses, I have like instantaneous recall. Right? I'm like the Dr. Reed from Criminal Minds. Instead of with Psychos, it's just like how much people put down for their house. So last year, had a client, good friend of mine. Him and his wife are both in the medical field. They both make very, very comfortable money. Right? Both of them in the 6-figure range, and I'm not talking about $100,000, right? For them, saving $100,000 wasn't something that takes them 4 years to do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That wasn't a 4-year venture for them. That was them cracking down for a year and just not spending anything outside of their normal budget, right?
Right.
So if you're that person, if you and your partner or you yourself can save $100,000, $120,000, and you can do it comfortably and you won't miss the money, go ahead and put that 20% down.
Yeah.
Right? But if you put the money down and you start having to cut back on your life, if you put 20% down and it's like, oh God, we're eating top ramen for the next year, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
There's also a program actually with our company now that you can put 15% down and not have mortgage insurance. So we had a client that was going to put down 20%. The property needed improvements because it was a little bit outdated. So we did a 15% down. They kept the extra money, the extra 5% on the sale, and they used that money to improve the house. So there's a 15% down, no mortgage insurance program now.
So how do they decide that the house isn't needed enough for repairs where you can get the 15% down?
Well, it didn't have anything to do with the repairs. The buyer just didn't have, they didn't want to go in and spend extra money. And if they put 20% down, they wouldn't have the money they needed to actually repair the property after closing.
So do you guys give out this 15% no PMI loan on a case-by-case basis? Like, are there certain numbers that people need to hit requirement-wise?
No, it's pretty much 15% down, no mortgage insurance. Because mortgage insurance, the way it's set up is that the mortgage insurance rate goes down with loan to value. Okay? So if you put 5% down, the mortgage insurance might be 0.78 or 0.8%, depending upon your credit. If you put 10% down, it may go down to like 0.4, 0.45. If you typically, when you put 15% down in the old days, it was like 0.23 something percent, so somewhere. So it goes down with more money down.
Yeah.
And so our company has basically said, well, we feel comfortable with 15% down based on us being able to sell it to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
You have a very Steve Jobsy feel today about you.
I do.
You have a very Steve Jobsy feel today. I feel very comforting in what you're educating me with today. For some reason, as you're talking, I'm like, oh, this guy knows his shit.
Knows
I'm
his
really
stuff,
digging it. Yeah.
30.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I need you to hold your Apple iPhone and tell me about all the features you're going to take away. It's important for people to know things like that that different lenders offer different programs like this. So they put 15% down, and then it's still not an investment property, right? They still can't rent it out.
No, you can't do it. It's got to be primary.
But then, I mean, they only need 5% more, right?
Yeah.
So something. So, Bill, I've used my FHA loan. I've sat in my house for, 3 to 4 years. I look up, my house has gained the 16.5% equity that I need. I have my 20%. How would I go about contacting you, or what would that conversation sound like to you?
So on an FHA loan, the mortgage insurance is there
Permanent.
pretty much forever,
Yeah.
right? So the way to remove it would be to refinance it into a conventional mortgage, provided the interest rates are such that it makes sense to refinance and save money and remove the mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
And so they would go through a refinance into a conventional mortgage.
Yeah. To me, 20% down is like first class. It's nice if you can afford it, but most of us are better off in coach. You may walk past the guys in first class and you have that feeling of like, oh, one day, right? And maybe one day you will be the first class guy. Maybe one day you will be the guy who just throws 20% down, but probably not right now, right? Probably not right now. If you spend $6,000 on the plane ticket, that's $4,000 in crappy souvenir gifts that you can't buy and bring home to your family.
Yeah.
And then what's the point of traveling? And that's the same thing with a house. If you put down 20% on the house, yeah, you may have $200 you save a month, but now you can't buy furniture. What's the point of the house, right? You got to really learn to understand to balance your finances with the lifestyle that you want to leave.
Yeah. And what you talked about is the values going up on the house, right? And it's a known statistic. Homeowners have 40 times the net worth of a renter. Mm-hmm. And it just allows you, once you become a homeowner, you start to build equity through the house, but you also become more financially savvy.
Yep.
Like
You're
forced to save.
You're forced to.
You put in a little bit extra money here and there. You go, oh, maybe I should get some insurance. You get a cash value insurance policy that also can provide you security and stability. Mm-hmm. And so you just become a more financially savvy investor.
Yep. Guys, what have been some of your down payment struggles, or what are some of your down payment stories? Feel free to share them with us. Leave them in the comments. If you're having issues with the down payment, or maybe you're struggling with how much you should be saving, leave it in the comments. Bill and I go through the comments on a daily basis. We'll be glad to follow up with you, check in with you guys. If you guys feel uncomfortable posting your financials or discussing financials in a public space, feel free to reach out to Bill directly. Bill, how can they best get in contact with you?
BillGaylord.com is the easiest way. It's got all my contact information. The contact information, or my phone number is right behind this big head over here. So 858-776-6830. Now, can I say one thing before we go?
Yeah.
Please get with a professional before you start doing DIY mortgage. If I had $1 for everybody that says, oh, I'm waiting to pay down my debt, improve my credit before I get with somebody, I'm going to pay it down, I would be a millionaire. I mean, people say that because they start thinking they have to pay their debt off.
Yep.
And debt is something that we look at. But if you don't have money for the down payment, which is probably one of the hardest things to get, paying your debt down doesn't help you on saving money for the down payment.
Yep. And every day that you focus on the debt and push off the down payment, the house gets more expensive. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, definitely contact Bill before you guys get started with any of that. In fact, next week, we're going to do an entire episode strictly on finances and how to get prepped, like a year in preparation, essentially. That's going to be really good stuff.
Get a game plan.
Get a game plan going. Guys, if you would like to reach me directly to talk about buying your first home, or the steps that you need to take, or just to discuss why 20% down isn't necessary, my name is Brandon from Vegas. You can reach me directly on the real estate forum that's in the information section, the description box. You can find me on any and all social medias. DM me directly. I probably get 20 to 25 messages a day from people who have questions and just want to pick my brain. You guys, you can text me directly. I don't care. I'm a 24/7 open means of communication. We're here to help you guys. It sucks that real estate education hasn't been taught since the 60s, and me and Boomer Bill are going to bring it back. I'm bringing a man from the 60s, a caveman to the future, to teach you guys all the things that he's known, through his time traveling. So thank you guys for tuning in today. If you have any questions, like we said, leave them in the comments below. And as always, won't you be my neighbor? Peace, 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 peace.